The universe changed into a ballet of fractured mild, a symphony of entangled particles, and Dr. Rachel Adams was its humble conductor. As she stood earlier than the superb system, her hands soaring over the controls, she could not assist however marvel at the problematic dance of photons that had introduced them to this moment. The air inside the lab changed into charged with anticipation, the very atoms vibrating with the fun of discovery. Her team, a motley crew of notable minds from throughout the globe, stood in hushed awe around her. Each of them had dedicated their lives to the pursuit of the unknown, and now, in this day, they had been on the verge of something simply groundbreaking. They were about to attain faster-than-mild travel, something that had been the stuff of technological know-how fiction for hundreds of years. They had been going to change the route of human records. But as Rachel organized to interact the device, a tiny thread of doubt started to unravel inside her. What if they have been incorrect? What if their calculations, their theories, their entire know-how of the universe became unsuitable? What if this wasn't the positive leap ahead they all believed it to be, however as an alternative step, one towards something some distance more catastrophic? She took a deep breath, banishing those mind from her thoughts. She had come to a ways, sacrificed too much, to let worry keep her returned now. With a consistent hand, she activated the device, and because it started out to hum to lifestyles around them, she felt a thrill of triumph path through her veins. The universe itself regarded to hold its breath as they waited for the results, and for a quick moment, Rachel imagined that she may want to hear the whispers of 1,000,000 trade realities, all vying for her interest. As the gadget completed its series, a vivid flash filled the lab, momentarily blinding all of them. When their eyes adjusted, they noticed that the system had vanished, replaced by using a shimmering portal. A portal to any other universe, another reality. The test had worked. They had accomplished faster-than-light travel. But as they carefully approached the portal, something odd started to take place. Figures started out to appear on the other side, silhouetted towards the unfamiliar starscape beyond. At first, they notioned they had been seeing duplicates of themselves, but as they drew nearer, they realized that these have been now not duplicates in any respect. They were different variations of Rachel Adams, each with lives that had taken a barely one-of-a-kind direction. One model turned into sporting a lab coat stained with the ashes of an extinguished cigarette. Another turned into clutching a small child to her chest, her eyes alight with the marvel of discovery. Still another became wearing an army uniform, her posture inflexible with authority. As they stood there, mouths agape, the portal commenced to pulse with power, drawing the alternate Rachels closer, their worlds getting ready to collision. Rachel, the only who had activated the system, took a step forward, her hand extended in greeting. Hello, sisters. She ventured cautiously. The others grew to become to her, their expressions a combination of misunderstanding, worry, and awe. The Rachel with the cigarette stain let loose a sour giggle. You're the only who did this, aren't you? You're the one who introduced us all here. Her voice turned into edged with anger and accusation. The Rachel with the child nodded, her eyes shining with tears. Yes, we all want to move domestic. Please, can you assist us? The Rachel within the military uniform strode ahead, her heels clicking on the lab ground. I am here to remind you that we are not the equal individual. We are not your responsibility. Whatever you've got performed, you should undo it. Her voice became calm, however her phrases carried an unmistakable threat. Rachel, the original, hesitated. She knew that these ladies had been now not the same person as her, but they shared her reminiscences, her information, her life's alternatives. As realities collide and timelines converge, Rachel needed to confront her own fears and regrets to repair stability to the universe and prevent a catastrophe that would end all existence. The Rachel with the cigarette stain advanced, her face hardening. You're right, you do not know us. But we're all a part of the same tapestry. If you do not help us, who will? She took a drag on her cigarette, the smoke dancing inside the surprising air. The Rachel with the kid clutched at her arm, tears streaming down her face. Please, I simply want to move domestic. I don't want to be here, on this other vicinity. Her voice wavered, betraying her fear. The Rachel inside the army uniform stood tall, her expression unreadable. You haven't any concept what you have finished, she said quietly. You've brought collectively threads that have been by no means meant to fulfill. Now you ought to undo it, or face the outcomes. Her hand hovered close to her holster, as if to remind them of the electricity she wielded. Rachel, the only who had activated the device, felt a weight settle in her stomach. She knew that anything choice she made could have a ways-achieving consequences. She took a deep breath and forced herself to assume definitely. All right, she stated finally. I'll assist you. But first, I want to recognize why you are all right here. Can you inform me approximately your lives? The four Rachels exchanged glances, their expressions conflicted. Finally, the Rachel with the child advanced, her face pale but resolute. My name is Rachel. I am a scientist, just like you. I'm married, and I have a bit boy named Timothy. In my international, I in no way determined the gadget that added us right here. I never knew approximately the other realities, or the capacity for quicker-than-light tour. I changed into content with my lifestyles, even supposing it became ordinary. Rachel nodded, taking in her words. And you, Rachel? She requested, turning to the other three. What are your stories? The Rachel with the cigarette stain took some other drag on her cigarette before answering. My name is Rachel too. I'm a musician. I in no way married, never had youngsters. I've usually been more inquisitive about dwelling existence than making plans for the destiny. I never knew approximately any of this. Until now. Her voice trailed off, and she or he gestured vaguely on the portal in the back of them. The Rachel in the army uniform stood tall and directly. My name is Colonel Rachel Adams. I lead a crew of scientists, operating on initiatives that could make your head spin. We found the ability for quicker-than-mild journey, but we in no way got close to making it a truth. I in no way knew that there had been different realities obtainable, different variations of me who had succeeded in which I had failed. She glanced on the portal, her expression unreadable. Finally, the Rachel with the child spoke up. And I'm Lieutenant Rachel Adams. I'm inside the Navy too, but I'm an engineer. We've been running on the same undertaking as Colonel Adams, however from a one-of-a-kind attitude. We never notion it'd lead to something like this. I just need to get back to my existence, to my husband and my son. Her voice became shaking, and he or she clutched at the child even tighter. Rachel listened to their memories, feeling a strange mixture of kinship and dislocation. She knew that she had to make a decision, but with every passing second, the portal pulsed with electricity, drawing the worlds toward their inevitable collision. Time became running out. She turned to the Rachel with the kid. Colonel Adams, you referred to that you had been operating on quicker-than-mild tour. Do you have got any idea what brought on the portal to open? Could it take place again? The colonel hesitated, her expression grim. We suspected that there is probably unforeseen effects to our research. We never ought to have predicted something like this. However, sure, it is viable that the portal could open again, and with every passing, the risk increases. Rachel bit her lip, her brow furrowed in concentration. And you, Lieutenant Adams? What do you understand about the studies? The lieutenant glanced at her superior officer earlier than answering. I worked in particular on engineering the FTL drives. The theory at the back of it become complex. We did not virtually apprehend the way it worked, we simply knew it can. But there were dangers. We have been always worried approximately what might happen if something went incorrect. Rachel felt a kickback run down her backbone. And you, Rachel? You said you have been a musician. Did you have any involvement in the studies? The Rachel with the cigarette stain took another drag on her cigarette. Not actually. I'm extra of a hobbyist with regards to that stuff. But I knew approximately the studies. I imply it become kind of hard now not to, while your pals and associates are all operating on it. I just never idea it would lead to something like this. Rachel nodded, her thoughts racing. She knew that they needed to act fast. However, the stakes were higher than any of them may want to have imagined. With each passing second, the portal grew more potent, and the threat to their worlds accelerated. She took a deep breath and steeled herself for the undertaking in advance. All right, she stated finally. Shall we want to find a way to shut the portal? I think we must paintings collectively. We each have our own regions of knowledge, and if we pool our sources, we might be capable of discern out a way to do it. She looked at every of them in flip, her expression critical. Are you with me? The four Rachels exchanged glances, their expressions solemn. Finally, the Colonel nodded. Yes, she stated. We're with you. The other three nodded in settlement. Together, they grew to become again to the portal, equipped to face something challenges lay beforehand. The air around them crackled with electricity, and the light from the portal soiled their faces in an eerie, otherworldly glow. They knew that they were status on the point of something amazing, something terrifying, and they knew that the destiny in their worlds rested of their arms. As they studied the portal, every Rachel ought to sense the alternative's mind, their fears and doubts and determination. It turned into a atypical aggregate of kinship and dislocation. They knew that they needed to make a decision. However, with every passing second, the portal pulsed with electricity, drawing the worlds toward their inevitable collision. Time turned into going for walks out. They grew to become to the only who seemed to have the maximum experience with the studies, the Colonel. Colonel, Rachel commenced, her voice barely above a whisper. What can we do? The Colonel hesitated, her expression grim. I'm afraid I don't know for certain, as she admitted. But there is probably something within the research we did on the other side of the portal. Something that might help us close it. The four Rachels exchanged glances. They knew that the Colonel become proper, that their only hope may lie on the alternative aspect of the portal. And they knew that they had to discover a manner to get there. But with the portal developing more potent by way of the second, they did not have a great deal time. Rachel grew to become to the lieutenant. Lieutenant, do you suspect you may modify one of the FTL drives to create a strong wormhole? Something that might let us pass over? The lieutenant frowned in awareness. I ought to try, as she said. But it would make the effort, and we might ought to find a manner to defend ourselves from the strength discharge. It might be risky. The four Rachels nodded in unison. They knew the dangers. However, in addition, they knew that they didn't have a desire. They needed to try. Together, they started to formulate a plan, their minds moving quicker than ever as they pooled their understanding and enjoy, every including their personal precise angle to the attempt. I can help with the engineering side of factors, the lieutenant supplied. You, Rachel, you can handle the tune issue? She requested, searching on the Rachel with the cigarette stain. The cigarette-smoking Rachel smiled grimly. Yeah, I think I can do that. She took every other drag on her cigarette and exhaled a long circulation of smoke. I've been running on a theory approximately how music might have interaction with the FTL drives. It is probably capable of stabilize the wormhole, make it more secure to pass over. The different three Rachels exchanged glances. It sounded a ways fetched, but on the other hand, so did maximum of the research that had long gone into the portal within the first vicinity. They did not have time to be skeptical. They needed to accept as true with every different and believe their personal skills. And so, with a deep breath, they started to place their plan into movement. Then let's do it, the colonel said firmly. We're going for walks out of time. Together, they set to work, each specializing in their very own assignment. The lieutenant began to alter one of the FTL drives, her fingers flying over the controls with practiced ease. The Rachel with the kid assisted her, making sure that she had something she wanted. The colonel and the cigarette-smoking Rachel worked at the track, pouring their hearts into it as they best tuned the frequencies and rhythms, trying to create something that could stabilize the wormhole. Time regarded to slow down as they labored, each lost in their very own world of statistics and sound. The air crackled with energy, the atmosphere thick with anticipation and worry. They knew that they needed to be successful, that failure wasn't an option. But with each passing second, the portal grew stronger, greater volatile. Suddenly, a pointy crack echoed through the room. They all seemed up, startled, as a bath of sparks rained down from the ceiling. The lieutenant cried out in alarm as she became thrown throughout the room by an unseen force. The FTL pressure she'd been running on sputtered and died. What just befell? The cigarette-smoking Rachel requested, her voice shaking. The colonel shook her head, her expression grim. I do not know, she stated, her voice tight with worry. But it's clean that we cannot spark off the force anymore. They all exchanged glances, figuring out the gravity of the situation. They had failed. The portal became still there, nonetheless growing more potent, and there seemed to be no way to prevent it. Their world was doomed. The lieutenant started to sob uncontrollably, collapsing to the ground. The toddler Rachel attempted to consolation her, but the colonel held up a hand, silencing them both. She knew that there was still hope. They had to locate every other way. The cigarette-smoking Rachel took a deep drag on her cigarette, her eyes narrowing in idea. Wait, as she said, her voice slightly above a whisper. What if we try something unique? The others checked out her, wish flickering of their eyes. What do you suggest? The colonel asked. The cigarette-smoking Rachel took any other drag on her cigarette, exhaling a protracted movement of smoke. Well, as she began, I've been thinking about that music concept of mine. What if we strive something absolutely unconventional? The others exchanged glances, now not pretty positive what to anticipate. What do you've got in thoughts? The colonel asked, her voice slightly above a whisper. The cigarette-smoking Rachel took another drag on her cigarette, her eyes distant as she pictured the track in her thoughts. Well, she said, I've been experimenting with extraordinary frequencies, exclusive rhythms. What if we attempt to use that song now not simply to stabilize the wormhole, however to govern it, to manage it? The others exchanged glances, their desire developing. How? The colonel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The cigarette-smoking Rachel smiled, a mischievous glint in her eye. I've been running on something referred to as the Dance of the Five Moons. It's a complicated piece, complete of unpredictable rhythms and transferring frequencies. If we will get it simply proper, perhaps we are able to use it to control the portal. They all looked at each other, their faces etched with willpower. They had nothing left to lose. They would attempt the cigarette-smoking Rachel's idea, no matter the hazard. The colonel nodded, steeling herself. All right, she said, her voice regular. Let's do it. The lieutenant, nonetheless shaken from her in advance in joy, pressured herself to stand. The baby Rachel helped her, steadying her as they walked over to the control panel. The colonel and the cigarette-smoking Rachel lower back to their stations. The colonel working at the FTL drive even as the cigarette-smoking Rachel began to play the Dance of the Five Moons on the ancient piano. The music stuffed the room, a cacophony of discordant notes and moving rhythms. But as they played, as they labored collectively, a strange issue started out to manifest. The portal, which had been growing more potent with every passing second, began to slow down. The colors round it commenced to trade, moving from red to blue, and then to inexperienced. The colonel felt her heart pound in her chest as she manipulated the controls, seeking to preserve the FTL pressure solid. The lieutenant and the child Rachel watched the readings, their eyes darting backward and forward as they attempted to make experience of what became happening.